Hi, it's Grandpa Butler here. Thanks for joining me this morning to do another bit of art. We're going to do this picture of ducks flying here, migrating in the mountains. And normally it's a cat or bird or dog or something, and some trees that I highlight. But I thought I'd do the mountains in ink as well as the subject, mainly the ducks. And we'll put some pines in the foreground and some meadows. So what I've done in the sky already, so I don't take up our time here, is with a yellow and an ochre, I've done a light crin already, and so we're going to just touch it up with the water brush, see how that works out. Always fun to experiment. The ducks are going to be bits of white, orange, and blue. And this is Prussian blue or indigo, blue indigo. Okay, nice dark blue. Then what we're going to do here for the foreground here is we're going to be putting in some of these colors here to pick up the mountain here, including the blue to come over where I already put in some dark here, and then the forest stuff will be put in with these dark green, light green, and an olive uh, kind of color. Okay, so let's get started. Yeah. So Grandpa is just spilling water on his pants, which is what grandpas do every morning. No, they don't. This grandpa does sometimes, only when I touch water. So what I'm doing here is I'm starting along the mountain's edge, and here, normally I love leaving some pigment behind in our watercolors, right? Because that's kind of fun. It gives it a dynamic kind of look here. But with sky, we don't expect to see much pigments until the end of the world when satellite pieces will be falling from space, etc. So what I'm doing here is I'm working, trying to remember to always keep my drawing here under the camera. So you can see I went from a bright yellow on the horizon to this ochre color here on the things, and I think I'm putting a little bit too much water in here in my desire to move along. So after this, what we're going to do is we're going to do the trees. And the reason we're going to do the trees in the foreground first is put them in, and then when we come back to do mountains and other things, we don't have to retrace our steps here too much. Okay, that's enough of the sky there. So yeah, fun experiment, and I think it's working just fine. So what we're going to do here is we're going to put in trees here. Put in a big pine tree here, so this will be the dark area here, and it's like the sunrise is coming up, and so there's going to be some darks and whites. Here's another area here, another indication of a tree here and here. You don't want to get them perfectly spaced out. You want to be a little bit asymmetrical because life tends to be asymmetrical, at least on the scale that we see it here. Okay. And maybe some foreground trees here and here and here. And over here. And maybe I'll just put a tall one in here. There's not one in the picture, but why not put one over here? Sort of frame the mountains a little bit here. And here, and now I'm going to get another color of green here. This is that was a dark green I had, just to give our trees a little bit more life and to put in a few different trees here and there, so we can differentiate them. Again, being a little bit asymmetric. Okay, so what else we have is we have like a little forest back here. So let me do the little forest. course, little lines here. And when I come to do them with the water and sort of activate it, what I need to remember to do is to dab. So in this case, I do leave some pigment behind, and it sort of indicates that these are forests here. In front of the forest, in our case right here, in front right here, we're going to have some meadows. So, and forest over here, there isn't some in the picture, but why not put some over here too? Okay. And a little bit here, and then we'll have our olive. We'll have our olive here to be meadows in the foreground here. And I should stroke horizontally because I think that's what we kind of get visually here. Okay, so there we've got that, and why not activate these colors right now? Because the idea here is to have fun and see different ways of having fun. So maybe I should do the big trees first, but I started on the forest here, so I'll continue. So again, if I stroke horizontally back and forth vigorously, sort of like I did the sky, what I'd get is just a homogeneous kind of green there, like we teach our preschoolers and first and second graders and graduate students to do. But I want a forest, so I'm going to leave that. So here I'm going to stroke horizontally. But still try and leave some pigment in there. Okay, so that's our meadows. Again, these are all fun experiments. Thank you if you're watching, and no one ever will, but if ever anyone pulls this up, maybe an alien who visits the planet pulls this up in their archive and said, oh, I wish when we were on planet Xenos that I had seen this then, because I could have had a lot of fun during our break from destroying planets Earthos and Megas and Optimon. I could have done something beautiful before I set it all ablaze. Who knows? Who knows what they would say or think. So there's kind of our nondescript. And again, we've talked about this before, but if it's still a little wet, there's some fun things you can do by putting a crayon into still not completely dry, right, paper here. So I think we got above and below finished. So let's start up and work on our birds first. Again, orange. So the orange here kind of shows up. We're going to turn it upside down because it's still wet on the bottom here and a little bit on the underside of the wings. There and there. And kind of a little bit there. Ducks are also, well, there's different kinds of ducks, right? If you've ever had the privilege of living in Minnesota, you've seen a variety of these beautiful creatures here. And so, good for you. If you have, and if you haven't, you should at least visit it. Twin Cities is a lovely area, except in the middle of winter. And if you really like to freeze and cold and stuff like that, then yeah, maybe the Twin Cities is your. And in the summer, if you like really big mosquitoes the size of, hummingbirds in other areas, then you could live in Minnesota year-round. It is a fantastic place to live. Okay, so there we've got our little ducks. Now let's highlight that. And I pulled out, I wanted a really small brush, but I didn't pull it out, so I'll go with this one. We'll do all the blues first and come back and get the oranges. And here we go. Okay, I'll come back and get the oranges. So remember, Grandpa's paintings are all impressionist because he can't draw a straight line and he can't ever get anything quite right. So here's Grandpa's impressionist ducks. Okay, so here we have, but he's having fun doing it. Now we finally have to get to the mountains, right? So here we have different things. So what I want to do is I want to follow through where we have some areas here that I put kind of darkened areas. And what Grandpa is going to do is come through here and just touch those up. I find when I do mountains, instead of just making them up, looking at a picture and see just the magnificent ways that God created the world and how it settled down is really the best way. It's just lovely pictures, and there's so many beautiful pictures of mountains. So this I'm using the blue. What kind of blue is this? This is a sapphire blue. And those are darkened areas. And I'm trying to leave some of these areas here that I have outlined here, and here as kind of snowfields. And this doesn't have the dark shadows, but I'm going to just put a little bit of blues in there. So when I touch it up, the memory of shadows elsewhere maybe will linger on. Okay, and here, I want more. This was mostly in shade, so I want some blues there. Moreover, that'll help set that off. Same could be over there on the other side, but let's be a little bit fun about it. Okay, so snowbanks, these are fields of rocks run off as the mountains decayed. Lots of kind of boulders sitting up here. They have little bits of moss and trees and small shrubs growing in the distance. I don't think I'll be able to show that as well as I would love to, so we'll just put it. And notice I'm running the lines down that I'm creating here, kind of in the same way that the boulders and rocks would run, because I'm going to use this pigments here as part of the artwork here, as part of Grandpa's method of getting it in here. Okay. Okay, so we got those in. And so what we need to do is, these are kind of darker here, so I'm going to get a darker color. This is, this lovely color here is cinnamon. Oh, it sounds yummy. This actually is yummy. I don't know if it'll be yummy in our picture or not, but I guess we're going to find out. I don't think I've ever used cinnamon on a mountain before. So, wow, let's do that. Remember, Grandpa, don't do it in your snowfields. And, okay, we'll save the top for a slider, different color. Okay. So this is cinnamon, And the top is being exposed to the early morning sun rise here. So what I'm going to do is assume that the very tops on these near mountains are kind of dipped in red here. And we'll just run some here and there to give fun colors. We'll see. Maybe it'll be fun colors. Maybe not. Okay, so here we have it. Okay, but what we're going to do is certainly do this color here in the back, and it may be a mistake to make it darker. Maybe you should make the ones in the foreground darker, but I'm going the other way here. The foreground along the edge, I'm going to put some yellow, some touches of yellow here. That's kind of a signal. And these backgrounds is going to remain this pretty solid reddish color here. So we started out then with an ink drawing here, kind of outline of mountains, and what we want to show you is how you can have fun with these water-soluble crayons. And there's different brands, and they all are just seem to be what I know of them, just wonderful to work with. So we'll come in here like this is a mountain coming up here, kind of different kind of rock field, and we'll put this different rock field coming down here. And partly because it just sounds like fun. So I'm working here left to right, and we'll get little areas, and we'll dip our brush again, and then we'll come back and get our, I think this is called English red, kind of a lovely color, and then we'll come up here, get the English red parts, and come back and get the blue parts here. Hope you're all doing well, and you stay well, and avoid getting sick. And just as bad, I think, as getting discouraged. My sainted mother used to say how interesting, and that would be her expression that she could use to describe these times that we're living in, huh? So let's start kind of up and work our way down. Grandpa's trying to remember not to overdo the water on his brush, but sometimes grandpas forget like every other stroke. That's sometime, huh? Okay, so we're coming up here. It's kind of fun when some of these colors go together, but they don't become, when they don't become gray and go together that way, but they sort of become fun. Okay. So again, what we typically do is we typically have a subject that we draw in with our ink, and then we color it typically, and then we go and do the background in a impressionistic kind of way here. On this, our subject is this flock of ducks, and really just wanted to have fun, and do just really want to have fun with colors here. So again, my stroke of my brush is following the way I took put the pigment down, in part because I'm planning to leave some of the pigment there as indicators of the flow that I see in the photograph here, without having to redo everything. And I think that's one nice thing about crayons, as opposed to watercolor crayons, as opposed to normal watercolors. I think you don't waste pigment generally. And for example, in the sky, you have an excess pan of colors that we paired just in case that we had access. So here's some stone, some rocks, debris flowing down here off the hill. Here's a kind of section that looks like cliffy, upright rock here. And so I'm dabbling because I don't want to mix all these little highlights together. Wow, I think that's it. Had a lot of fun. Thank you for watching, and be good to one another.